Well, let's talk now to Jonathan Sacerdoti, who is from the Jewish Chronicle. And it was you, I think, or your paper, who obtained this audio. Why did you think it was necessary to release it?
Well, it was our investigations team that got the audio, and I think really the content of it should make it clear why it's necessary to release it. In the content, which you can hear at thejc.com, he says that he'd come to die, that he promised his brother on his deathbed that he'd go down as a martyr, and he rants about how he thinks that the Americans might release Afia Siddiqui from prison in exchange for him releasing these 4 Jews he was holding hostage on the Sabbath in a synagogue. She's currently serving 86 years in prison for terrorism charges. And he said that he was bombed up. He'd prayed to Allah for 2 years for this, and he'd asked Allah for this death. So I think in hearing all these extreme things he said there, I mean, aside from the things he said about Jews, he said he wanted the Taliban to invade America. I think it's really important that in framing the coverage of this, the Jewish Chronicle has reminded everybody that this was, in fact, an anti-Semitic attack on Jewish people while they were praying in synagogue.
Well, indeed, the FBI Director, Christopher Wray, has said tonight the FBI is and has been treating Saturday's events as an act of terrorism targeting the Jewish community. 2 questions, I guess. Firstly, how important is it that anti-Semitic crimes or crimes that are motivated by anti-Semitism are acknowledged as such?
Well, I think it's important probably that all crimes are acknowledged according to the facts that, underlie how they happened and why they happened. And this isn't the only time that Jews are targeted. It's unfortunately becoming all too regular. I spoke to several members of the congregation of Beth Israel in Texas after this attack about their thoughts. And a couple of them said to me that they wish they could say they were surprised this happened, but that really they weren't that surprised. What's remarkable, I suppose, this time about this attack on Jews is not that it happened, unfortunately, it's that it failed. I mean, we can think 2019, there was a California synagogue shooting in Poway. 2019, there was a stabbing in Monza at a Hanukkah party. Also in 2019, a synagogue shooting in Germany, in Halle. In 2019, there was the Jersey City shooting in a kosher supermarket. 2018, Pittsburgh Tree of Life shooting, 11 people dead there. In 2018, close to home, there's the killing of Marie Knoll in France, and she was an 85-year-old Holocaust survivor. 2017, the killing of Sarah Halimi in France by her Muslim neighbor. The list goes on and on and on. Jewish people are used to hearing about the history of Jews being killed during the Second World War, just about within living memory. But I think sometimes they forget that Jews are actually being killed right now just for being Jewish, whether it's in America or in Europe.
Well, you've possibly answered the second point I was going to make, which is how concerned does it make you feel that a British man living in the north of England felt strongly enough to fly to America and target a synagogue?
Well, obviously, it makes, I think, all Jews across the world feel concerned, and not just Jews. It should make everybody feel concerned. I think it does make many, many people feel concerned about this. The truth of the matter is Jewish people have actually got quite used to high security measures around synagogues and schools and community centres because these threats have existed for so long, and they come from various different parts of society as well. So I think it's unfortunate that Jews have got used to it. There's plenty of good things about being Jewish in Great Britain and in America, but unfortunately I think this tendency is on the rise, and I think that it's something that does make people afraid. But of course people also get on with their lives and day to day live pretty safe lives, especially here in the UK, and I think that we're relatively well looked after by the police and the government. Nonetheless, there's no getting away from these sorts of attacks and just how concerned they do make people feel. I mean, I told you I spoke to people in Texas after this attack, and they said that they were already on edge, already expecting something like this could happen anywhere because of those other attacks in America against Jews.
Yes, and certainly Mr. Wray, the FBI Director, acknowledging that today. We understand all too well that these kinds of attacks are terrifying, not only for the individuals directly and physically involved, terrifying for members of the congregation and for the entire Jewish community, many of whom understandably worry about other threats still out there. Can you offer anything practical that can be done to make people feel more secure or safer?
Well, firstly, these things are extraordinary events, even if they have happened as I listed earlier, all too often. But I think also it's worth noting that the 4 hostages managed to escape from Texas, and this was extraordinary, because of their own cunning and accurate and safe behaviour. They were very careful to try to stay near an exit door in the synagogue, despite what they were told to do. And they'd had some training, in fact, on how to react in a marauding gunman scenario, just like the one they ended up finding themselves in. So I do think, to a certain extent, it doesn't do any harm for people to get some sort of training in that regard and to know what to do in an emergency, just the same as we might learn emergency life-saving techniques for if somebody collapses in front of us. We hope it will never happen, but when it does happen sometimes, if you're in that situation, you've been trained as they were, you then know what to do. And in this case, perfect example of how they managed to get out despite the dire situation they were in.
Sage advice for all, no doubt. Jonathan Sacerdoti, special correspondent there from the Jewish Chronicle. Appreciate your time. Thank you.